I'm happy to be joined here today by Tyler McMurtry with SGI. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's great to be here.
Now we're almost through April, heading into May, and the spring summer season is right around the corner. But today we'll be talking about March and the number of tickets that were given out. There were a number of tickets given out for a number of infractions, whether it's impaired driving, distracted driving. Can you break down those numbers for us?
Sure. Our focus for March was on impaired driving. But every month, as part of the traffic safety spotlights, police across Saskatchewan report back on not only what the focus of the month is, but also what we call the rest of the big four. So that's impaired driving, distracted driving, speeding, and seatbelt violations. So when we look at the numbers for March, just run through them really quick. We saw 454 impaired driving offenses. That includes 312 administrative suspensions for exceeding provincial limits, and then 142 criminal code charges. On the rest of the big four, we saw 548 tickets for distracted driving, 375 tickets for seatbelts or car seat offenses, and then 4,473 tickets for speeding and aggressive driving offenses. And you mentioned the weather is getting nice, and we want people to go out, enjoy the all too brief nice weather that we have here on the Canadian prairies, because winter is always looming, it seems. But as you hit the road, just understanding that there's going to be lots of other people out enjoying the weather as well, with motorcycles, bicycles, skateboards, scooters, and pedestrians as well. And so just making sure that we keep an eye on our driving, making sure that we're following all the rules of the road and helping keep everybody safe.
Now, comparatively to other years, are these numbers high for the month of March?
Actually, so I did actually take a look at the last 3 Marches, the last 3 years worth of Marches. And for the March results, if you average them out, the numbers for distracted driving, seatbelt and car seat offenses, and speeding were all down from that 3-year average a little bit. So that's good. I mean, we, of course, don't want to see anybody getting a ticket. We don't want to see anybody engaging in any kind of behavior that increases the risk to them that they'll be injured or worse in a motor vehicle accident. But the numbers are down somewhat. When it came to the main focus, though, of the impaired driving, that number is up slightly. It was 454 total. I think 3-year average was under 400. But we have seen a couple of interesting trends when it comes to impaired driving offenses. And we've maybe talked about this before on this program, but we're seeing the number of administrative suspensions for violating the provincial limits going up, while the number of criminal code charges are coming down. And what you can point to as far as the administrative suspensions going up is more people are getting caught after using cannabis while driving, because we see those drug-related administrative suspensions increasing sharply. It basically accounts for all of the increases that we're seeing. The criminal code charges overall for both alcohol and drugs are stable and actually decreasing somewhat, and the alcohol-related administrative suspensions are relatively stable as well. So primarily due to drug-related driving. And that doesn't mean more people are driving under the influence of drugs. It means more likely that more people are getting caught. And because police have increased access to those roadside oral swabs that can take a sample of your oral fluid and determine whether you've been recently using cannabis. And more drivers are finding that they're getting caught, whereas they may not have been in the past.
It's always a good reminder for people that officers do have those tools to determine cannabis use. Now, as another reminder, what are some of the penalties people could face if they are caught for any driving infractions?
Sure. And we can talk about there's basically 2 levels of offense. There's the criminal code charges, which can carry some very significant financial like fines if you're found guilty, or potentially jail time if it's a repeat offense, or the circumstances are egregious if somebody was injured or killed as a result of impaired driving. But with all impaired driving offenses, whether it's criminal or the lower level provincial sanctions, they generally come with things like license suspensions, vehicle impoundments, Requirements for a weekend driving without impairment course, those are kind of across the board. The lengths of the suspensions and the impoundments vary according to the seriousness of the offense and how many offenses you have on your record as well. That can impact that as well. There are penalties under the Safe Driver Recognition Program. If you get a provincial administrative suspension, you're looking at 4 demerits. If you're charged and convicted criminally, you go to at least -20 on SGI Safe Driver Recognition Program. And so there's an additional financial penalty that comes along with that, to the tune of, I believe, $1,250. So very significant penalties. Of course, the most significant consequences, and we talk about this all the time, Abby, is the of impaired driving. The most significant consequences are the safety concerns that it presents, the chance that you will be injured or killed, or you will injure or kill someone else as a result of your choice to drive impaired. So, the friendly reminder from SGI here is, of course, go out, have a good time, enjoy the beautiful weather that we are seeing on the prairies, but make sure that if your good times include anything that impairs you, just make sure you find a safe ride home. Don't get behind the wheel under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and keep the good times rolling.
The hope is always that those numbers do continue to go down. Is there anything else that you would like to remind drivers that I may have missed?
Well, I would just say when it comes to impaired driving, one of the things that is positive when we look back over the long term, and I may have talked to you about this before as well, is over the long term, the past decade in Saskatchewan, impaired driving, we have seen those numbers of collisions coming down, the number of injuries and fatalities that result from those collisions coming down, and that's a positive sign. We still have work to do because people are still choosing to drive impaired by alcohol and drugs, but strong enforcement, awareness, including opportunities like this, have helped really change the culture when it comes to impaired driving. And legislation has been updated as well over the years to give police more tools, more abilities to determine whether somebody's been driving impaired and take those impaired drivers off the road. And we're going to keep talking about it until it's no longer an issue.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me again. It's always great talking to you about this, as it is very important to keep our roads safe. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Abby, and take care out there.